Добро вечер. Најново издание на 24 Анализа. Во него ќе говориме за најновото именување на германскиот посредник како дополнителна сила во обидот на меѓународната заедница за решавање на политичката криза во земјава. Секако ќе се осврнеме и на актуелните политички состојби во земјава. Наш вечерашен гостин е поранешниот амбасадор на Европската Унија во земјава и докажан пријател на Македонија, господин Ерван Фуере. Добре дојдовте во Македонија. И благодарам што ја прифативте поканата за ова интервју. Mr. Фуере, the concern of the official Berlin resulted with appointing of German representative Johannes Heindel as a special envoy. What will this mean in solving the political crisis of the country?
Well, I think first of all it demonstrates the increasing concern among several member states at the worsening political crisis in Macedonia, and the fact that the ruling party have not fully respected all the commitments that were entered into in the political agreement which was negotiated by the European Union together with the United States last year. And this has been the problem, that throughout the previous months there has been a lack of on-the-spot high-level monitoring to make sure that the ruling party fully respects its commitments, which it hasn't, unfortunately. So this new appointment will add increased pressure and will hopefully ensure that there is that greater monitoring and avoid a situation where the ruling party continues to give all sorts of promises to the international community, but they never keep those promises. And I think this has been the great tragedy of the current situation in Macedonia.
Can we expect a quick resolution of the crisis?
I would hope so, because this has been going on for far too long. The people have suffered so much over these past years of clear abuse of power, of violation of many of the basic democratic standards which one would expect from a candidate country. And this has been highlighted in so many international reports from the United States, from the European Union, from Freedom House, from many other organizations. And yet the ruling party has failed to address all of these weaknesses in the political system, and have unfortunately undermined the democratic rule of law and are disrespecting all the basic principles of the rule of law in Macedonia. So there needs to be a long-term political settlement as soon as possible.
After Heindel joining in resolution the crisis, yesterday arrived a letter from the Dutch Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Koenders. Is this some kind of offensive of EU in resolving the crisis in Macedonia?
Well, certainly it gives a very clear message, because we mustn't forget that the Netherlands has the presidency of the European Union, so it speaks in essence on behalf of the entire European Union and its 28 member states, and that letter clearly sets out the very, very grave concern of the European Union, and also makes clear to the political leadership here that having elections on the 5th of June is simply not possible, because all of the conditions have not been met. And I'm really very happy that this has been said now, because it demonstrates the realization by the international community that the ruling party has again failed to live up to its commitments and what it entered into in the previous year.
Is this the whole situation does mean that action taken by the EU Commissioner Hahn were not sufficiently decisive, and where and were the reason that give the political parties enough space for the manipulation and play the games. Is this role was some kind of ambivalential?
Well, certainly, I have always felt that the European Union has not been forceful enough in the previous years, particularly after the violence in the National Assembly on the 24th of December 2012. There was not a strong condemnation, as there should have been, from the European Union about that, which was a direct violation of the democratic standards in the country. And after that as well, admittedly, the European Union played an important role in mediating the political agreement of last year, which at least established a process, however weak it was in certain aspects. But the problem is that there has never been an effective follow-up to all of these political agreements. There has not been effective monitoring on the ground to make sure that if there is a failure of fulfilling those commitments, it was the same in 2013 as well, by the way, if there's a failure, then there must be a clear signal given to the leadership that they will be subject to sanctions or to whatever way to convince them that they have to respect all those commitments that they entered into. And I think this letter from the Presidency of the European Union gives a clear message that there needs to be from now on a much more determined, more forceful, more assertive, more immediate action on the part of the European Union, and it must be a permanent effort and not once every 2 or 3 weeks there are high-level meetings with just 4 or 5 political leaders and nothing else. There are new developments in this country. There is the very strong voice expressed by civil society. These must be taken into account.
Did you have any meetings while you are here in these days? Did you have any meetings in discussion with the political parties?
No, that was not my intention, because I've had meetings with them previously. The purpose of my visit here was to participate in the Tribunus Civilis, which was organized by several legal and experts and academics, and also the event organized yesterday by the Macedonian Center for European Training, together with the Open Society Foundation, and many others who are very concerned at the worsening crisis in Macedonia. And of course I met many people, friends, and so I continue to pay close attention to Macedonia, and I feel whatever I can do, I try to do.
Mr. Fouere, what is your opinion about what you think is there a condition for election of 5th of June?
It's quite clear that it cannot happen. There are so many areas where the work required of ensuring a free and fair election, free from all the irregularities of the past, have not taken place. The media reforms have barely started. There is still no clarity regarding the abuse of state funds, and you have the former Prime Minister, Mr. Goreski, travelling around the country, opening new projects. What money is that? Is that government money or is it party money? And so all of this demonstrates that there is a total lack of commitment by the ruling party on how to ensure a level playing field where all political actors have equal rights and also where people's vote will be fully respected. And clearly those conditions are not present. And until such time as those conditions are present, I think it would be a big mistake to organize elections. There needs to be a proper, serene environment where everybody feels that their vote will mean something, and that if they want to see a change of government, that they will vote and that vote will be respected. And if others want to vote for whatever other party, but not the current situation where many voters go to the polls because they are forced to vote for a particular party. The many cases of intimidation by the ruling party have been evidenced in so many cases in previous elections where also businesses are subject to extortion by tax inspectors to vote in a certain way, otherwise their license will be revoked, or many other ways of cheating, which unfortunately the ruling party has engaged in previous elections.
What if DPMNE and DUI decide to go for election and opposition will boycott? What repercussions will have for Macedonia?
Well, I believe those elections with only a small number of parties will not be credible elections. And I think the international community would not recognize whatever results those elections give, because they would not reflect the democratic voice of Macedonia. So there needs to be enough time before such elections were to be organized, and even if it requires a year, all the better, because elections are not something that are to be organized for the sake of giving a blessing to a particular party. They are there so that people can exercise freely, without fear, their vote. And unfortunately, this has not been the case in Macedonia. We all know at the same time that elections don't solve everything. And there are so many other elements of the crisis here that need to be addressed. First and foremost, the rule of law and the judiciary, which is quite clearly still under the influence of the ruling party. The wiretapping conversations have demonstrated that. And until such time as there is a proper rule of law in this country, it will not find a lasting peace, and the citizens must be able to have confidence in the rule of law, and that their rights, if their rights are being neglected or violated, that they will have recourse to a court of justice which will be able to ensure a proper application of the law. And in this same vein, the decision of the president to pardon all these people, including senior government officials, party officials, was a clear disrespect of the rule of law. And it's absolutely vital that the president withdraws that pardon as soon as possible, because until such time as that happens, you cannot consider the existence of a rule of law in Macedonia.
I will ask you about what you mean about the president decide to make a pardon.
Yes. Well,
what did this mean?
His reasoning for making that pardon was in the interest of reconciliation. This is not reconciliation. This is perhaps reconciliation with evil, with people who used evil intent to usurp the interests of the country in favor of the interests of their own interest and the interest of their political party and their very negative ideology which they have sought to impose on the entire country. These are officials who have used Macedonia as their own personal property, and so to give them a blanket pardon is really laughing at the principles of justice. So it's quite clear that the president was, I'm sure, was probably forced to do that by the ruling party. I doubt very much he did this on his own. So he will have to withdraw that, and there has to be a guarantee that the special prosecutor is able to conduct her work, and it's a very admirable what she has managed to achieve despite tremendous intimidation, despite constant attacks by the ruling party. Those attacks demonstrate that they are guilty and they don't want to face the full force of the law. So she must be given that opportunity to bring the investigations forward against all of those who are involved in these abuses of power, corruption and so many other criminal activities, and they must be subject to the full force of the law. And to do that, she must be given full authority and full support.
There is so many official ask to withdraw the pardons from the President Ivanov, but there's no answer from him.
No, I really don't understand, because he and his party, ruling party, should understand that what they have done has destroyed the image of Macedonia. It has created a climate which goes totally against increased foreign investment, which gives the impression that this is a lawless state, that whoever wants to break the law can do it without any punishment or any recourse to justice. And the fact that the international community is united in calling for the president to withdraw should make the leaders here realize that if they don't, the longer they delay in responding to these requests, the more they are seriously damaging the country's interests in the long term as well. Already that there has been tremendous damage within society. And I have no doubt that the economic situation, although the growth rate figures look relatively positive, but so many of those figures are based on artificial accounting, and it's quite clear that the situation is worsening by the day.
Тука предлагам мала пауза. Се враќаме веднаш по рекламите.
Заедно е подобро, затоа сите ние, VIP, One и Близу, стануваме дел од големата VIP заедница. Заедно сите сме VIP. Повеќе за вас. VIP.
Ева на Македонија ви доделува вредни награди за енергетски ефикасен дом. Ажурирајте ги вашите податоци во Ева на Македонија и играјте за вредносни ваучери од 100.000 или 30.000 денари за целосно опремување на домот. А дел од корисниците може да добијат и сет за енергетска ефикасност. Проверете дали сте добитник на evana.mk. Евана, секогаш тука за вас.
Одберите го вашиот омилен победнички вкус. Алпско млеко.
Заедно е подобро, затоа сите ние, VIP, One и Близу, стануваме дел од големата VIP заедница. Заедно сме повеќе. Заедно сите сме VIP. Повеќе за вас. VIP.
Што можеш да направиш за да го освоиш последниот чекор до целта? А потребен е само еден чекор за да започнеш. Ке треба време, ке треба волја, а заморот и исцрпеноста ќе се обидат да те одвратат од намерата. Но ти ветувам, кога ќе ја постигнеш целта, ќе вреди. Сите имаме соништа кои сакаме да станат реалност. Време е да ги оствариш твоите соништа. Денес. Предизвикај ги своите граници со Алгасан. Мобил интензивен гел. Ја намалува напнатоста во мускулите и ја подобрува подвижноста на зглобовите.
За методата лазерска корекција на диоптријата имав слушнато уште како студент во текот на мојот престој во Соединетите Американски држави, но сепак не се одлучив да го направам тоа тогаш затоа што не бев сигурен Моментот кога се запознав со тимот на Систина офталмологија, всушност ја добив потребната доверба и сигурност за да ја направам лазерската корекција на мојот вид.
Закажете преглед и вие и за секогаш ослободете се од очилата. Систина офталмологија.
Само за вас најдобрата понуда овој викенд. Единствено во Тинекс од 6 до 8 мај. Свинска плешка 219 денари, свински ребра 199 денари, домати 58 денари, сет топено сирење с денка 133 денари, чоколадо Фреј 1+1 подарок, сок од портокал Стерил Гарда 59 денари, сет Виолета 135 денари, фарба за коса Палете со максимално добра цена 99 денари. Тинекс, секој ден со вас.
Spray your truth with the new fragrance by Straight.
Овозможете му на вашиот стар ТВ приемник да биде во чекор со времето. Телекабел ви го нуди новиот HD дигитален ресивер, со кој имате можност да гледате HD и дигитални канали, да се конектирате на интернет, да ги снимите и прегледувате вашите омилени содржини. Единствено на Телекабел без месечна доплата.
Некои кафиња ги купувате за наградни игри, а некои за уживање. Доколку сакате врвен квалитет и вкус, пробајте го Елит Делукс, мешавина од најквалитетните зрна за вистинските гурмани на турско кафе. 25 години со вас. Елит кафе.
Струмка и јас. Шо да ти расправам?
Струмка. Традиционално освежување.
Заедно е подобро, затоа сите ние, VIP, One и Близу, стануваме дел од големата VIP заедница. Заедно сите сме VIP. Повеќе за вас. VIP.
Продолжуваме со 24 анализа. Наш гостин е поранешниот евроамбасадор Ерван Фуере. Mr. Фуере, the president pardons result with a huge demonstration. What do you mean about these activities of the people?
Well, I think it's a very natural reaction of the people who feel that their rights have been trampled on, that they have been neglected by the ruling party, that they've been discriminated against, and that the rule of law is totally forgotten and neglected by the ruling party. That it doesn't exist for them. So these are people who really, from all walks of life, have come out because they want to be there and they want to protest. They've had enough. And I think it shows in the best way possible the power of the voice of the people. And this has been now going on for 3 weeks, and every night they are there walking. They could be somewhere else enjoying an evening out, but they are there demonstrating against this authoritarian government that has destroyed so much of the fabric of Macedonian society and have created a situation where so many of them feel totally marginalized. And they deserve all our support and all our respect, because they are the voice of those who are hoping for a return to democratic standards in Macedonia.
These days, while you are here, you have an opportunity to be among the demonstration. What is the energy you feel from the people, and did you tell them some message?
Yes, very emotional. I really felt very humbled to be among them, because these are people, as I say, who wanted to be there to demonstrate their rejection of the ruling party and their frustration at the fact that the ruling party has been able to commit so many offences against the interests of the country and the interests of the citizens. And these are old people, young people, all walks of life, business people, teachers, professors. And as I say, they are there because they have had enough. And they deserve all our support. And their voice must be taken into account in the resolution of this crisis.
What do you think about the contra-protesting which took part with a parallel with the demonstration?
Well, all citizens, everybody has a right to demonstrate as long as it is in a respectful environment. And certainly all the demonstrations we have seen every night are in that category. The counter-demonstrations, I would wonder if one asked them, why are they there? Are they there because they want to be there, or are they there because they were told they had to be there and that there are free sandwiches? Unfortunately, we have seen that a number of these counter-demonstrations are really ones where the people have not been given a choice. They have been told that they have to get on the bus and travel to Skopje and demonstrate their support, but I'm sure many of them will prefer not to be there. And those who are there because they want to be there, they're talking about defending Macedonia, but defending from what? There is no external threat. The threat is from inside the country. The threat to Macedonia is from a ruling party that refuses to respect the rule of law and that is imposing its own ideology on a country which has suffered so much. And that's why you will see, I think, every evening the thousands of citizens who don't want that for the future of the country. And they want Macedonia to return to the rule of law, a return to democratic standards, where all the citizens, regardless of ethnicity, religion, etc., are fully respected.
I will back on the demonstration. They name their activity like colorful revolution. What do you mean about the painting of many of new buildings and some of the institutions?
Well, I think this reflects the frustration of all the citizens. I think Colorful Revolution demonstrates in a way the incredible mixture of people that have come out from all walks of life, from every sector of the communities, and it is a way of giving a positive element to these demonstrations. And as for the buildings, well, I think many of us share, certainly I share the view that so many of those buildings have destroyed this city, and how many of those buildings were erected following consultation with the citizens. I think they were never given an opportunity to express their vote, by a vote, their views on these building projects. And when we see the cost that these building projects have involved for a country which has 30%, 29% unemployment, it really gives a very strange picture of the priorities which the government have in place for the country.
These days, the NGO Freedom House and International Crisis Group had very bad marks for Macedonian that is like on the age.
Yes.
Where Macedonia is going and what is the future of the country?
When I arrived in Macedonia to take up my post in November 2005, Macedonia was in the upper level of countries regarded as respecting freedom of the media, etc., etc. And now, 10 years later, we see the situation. And this is after 10 years of rule of the one party that has gradually destroyed all the basic foundations of a democratic society by their ideology, by their very narrow-minded approach to government and using the assets of the country and the interests of the country for their own interests. So this is a very damning judgment by Freedom House, by the Reporters Without Borders, and yet the ruling party refuses to accept these. They, with their arrogance, consider that these assessments are not valid, and this shows that they refuse to accept the reality on the ground, and they are trying to brainwash the citizens through their own government-supported media of their own assessment, which of course is totally artificial.
What do you mean? How will the development, the whole situation in the future?
Well, we have to hope that first of all, the most important is that the President withdraws the pardoning. Secondly, that the Special Prosecutor is given full capacity and authority to conduct her investigations, and that the ruling party in particular, which has been viciously attacking her, must end those attacks, must fully respect her authority, and that those investigations be brought to the judicial process, and there must be a special chamber in the criminal courts with judges that are clearly identified as independent, as not under the influence of the ruling party, and that they will be able to process these cases. Otherwise, all the work of the Special Prosecutor could be denied by the current judicial system, which is weighed heavily in favour of the ruling party, and the wiretapping conversations demonstrate that there has been unacceptable interference in the workings of the judiciary. So there will have to be a guarantee that those investigations and charges brought by the Special Prosecutor are able to be processed through an independent means within the existing criminal courts. And then linked to that, work must continue through a technical government for all of those areas where there are enormous backsliding with regard to the reforms, starting of course with the media freedom, but many other areas which were identified and set out very clearly in those small but excellent, concise reports, the PRIBA report and the Urgent Priorities report that were agreed to by all the parties, including the ruling party, and yet they have done nothing to ensure full implementation. So that must be done as well. And then once all of those conditions are met, that there would then be a national consensus on setting a date for elections. And if that one has to wait for a year until next year, well and good. These elections must mean something. They must mean that the country is turning the page from autocratic rule to a democratic system, a democratic process, and where the citizens will be able to have confidence that their vote means something, and that there can be the normal democratic processes that one expects in any of our Western societies, where there is the institutions which are allowed to function as they should.
You mentioned the Special Prosecutor. Do you have a meeting with Special Prosecutor, and what do you think about their work?
Well, I think she has all our admiration, she and her team, because from the moment she started working, she was subject to attacks by the ruling party. Also, she faced many obstacles in the different ministries, in the public prosecutor's office, who first of all didn't want to give her the staff that she was requesting. The Parliament took ages to adopt her budget. At every stage of the way, the ruling party tried to block her work because they knew that she was going to go after them because they were guilty of so many of these abuses of power. So she has, as I say, she deserves all our admiration, and I'm very happy that many of the member states' ambassadors here have demonstrated their full support for the special prosecutor, attending some of our press conferences. The German, British, Italian, Netherlands ambassadors have been there, and because we all believe that she must be given that space to fulfill her responsibilities, and she is the only hope for a return to democratic standards in Macedonia.
In the end of this interview, I would ask you about the situation in media. What do you think about the freedom of media in Macedonia? The question of media was the part of agreement of Pergino, but there is this was blocked from the political parties.
Yes, well, of course, media freedom has been on the table for many years, and it has been mentioned on many occasions by various international reports that I mentioned earlier. So what came out in the political agreement of last year was nothing new, but merely an affirmation of the grave situation with regard to the media. And the OSCE has been consistent in highlighting the many violations of media freedom perpetrated by the ruling party in Macedonia. Also the excessive use of government advertising, some 20 million euros of state money used for advertising, and that is used as an instrument to control media. And the government-supported media should be ashamed of themselves to consider themselves journalists when they are merely a mouthpiece for government propaganda. And I think this is the saddest reflection of what happened to the media here, because there are some excellent journalists, really professional, who believe in their profession and who believe in standards that must be respected. But they were constantly subject to intimidation, so many of them adopted a process of self-censorship in order to survive, and this is not acceptable. So it's not just a question of adopting new legislation, new regulations. It's really a question of changing the behavior of the political establishment, changing the mindset, recognizing the role of the media. They're there as independent. They should be entitled to criticize whoever they want. And that is what has to be achieved in Macedonia, hopefully soon.
Mr. Fouere, thank you for the interview. Hope the next coming in Macedonia you will find a better situation.
I really hope so. I really hope so, because it's time for the country to find peace.
Thank you. Почитувани гледачи, вам ви благодарам на вниманието. Останете со програмите на 24 вести. Довидување.